This is a mid-90s, I believe, STIHL 066 saw. I got it a couple months ago. I traded a buddy a smaller 034 and some cash for it. It's got a 25-inch bar, and I am going to put a carb kit and a new plug in it today because sometimes it runs really good. Sometimes, like yesterday, it does not. It acts like it's flooded. So let's tear this thing down and put a kit in it and a new plug. Make sure when you call your STIHL dealer that you tell them the type of carb that's on your saw, because multiple of the same model saws may have used different carbs. So this one happens to be a WJ62, I believe, and it is the Arctic package with the heated hand warmer and heated carbs, so that might make it a little bit tougher. This is the biggest saw I'll ever work on, probably. It's too big for around here, but might get in a chainsaw milling, which I picked up a small portable mill, so that's probably what I'll use it for. First things first, you want to start with your air filter, the cover, and then we'll take this cover off, which is held on by a few Torx screws. Okay, so I took off the air filter assembly, which exposed the carb. And there you can see the heating element going to the carb, which is pretty cool. Like I said, I've never worked on a saw like this before. And the 3 T27 Torx screws holding on the shroud here, which exposes the cylinder, as well as the intake boot, which we're going to check and make sure it's in good shape. Well, that wasn't too bad. We had the 2 8mm nuts holding on the carb, your fuel lines, and your throttle linkage, and had to take the heating element off and unplug this one as well. So now we'll clean the carb. A good idea to always keep a rag or a paper towel underneath the carb, because there's a lot of small parts in here, and if you lose one, well, you're screwed pretty much. Forgot to add, assuming this carb was good before you got your hands on it, always keep note of how the diaphragms were in the carb, which way they went. Otherwise, you put this thing back together, it's not going to run. You're going to have to take it back apart and flip around your gaskets. I've been there, done that, it sucks. As you can see, it's pretty old and brittle, but the carb's actually pretty clean, so I had to scrape some of the old gasket off the carb there, so I ended the video because that's kind of boring. But next, it's pretty clean. There's a little bit of dirt in the screen there. I'm going to spray some brake clean and blow it out with air. I like to do these carbs one side at a time, this side, and flip it around and do this side, just so stuff doesn't get lost and easier to keep track of everything. So yeah, make sure you blow every little passageway out with compressed air and some carb cleaner and brake cleaner. And then put your gaskets back on. This particular one, this was on first, and then your other actual gasket next. Okay, next up we have the other side of the carb here, which has the needle and seat in it, and the diaphragm for the fuel pump. There's a lot more stuff on this side, so take extra caution when you take everything apart. Ooh, this one's This is on there good. There we go. Hopefully nothing broke. Well, once again I had to scrape the old material off the carb body here, so I didn't film that because whatever, it's boring. But there's the inside of the carb. I kind of scuffed it up a little bit when the screwdriver slipped, but let's take out the needle and this little jet that's in the carb here. A lot of guys change this plug out under there. I've never had that issue, so I'm not going to do it this time because it's kind of a hassle. The saw ran, but sometimes it just wouldn't run good, and these old diaphragms are super brittle, so keep an eye out for the spring when you take off the needle arm. Very easy to lose. So same thing, we're going to spray it out and blow it out with air. A little bit of dirt in there, but not much. Okay. Now this little jet, looks good, but I like to hold it up to the light and check. Yeah, that's clear, clean. In behind it's clean. The camera probably doesn't pick that up, but so that's gonna go back in. Now this kit didn't come with a new needle spring, or it flew out of the package when I got it. So I'm gonna reuse the old one, which seems fine. I also got two different size needles, but I'm going to use the bigger one because that's what was in here. Place that in there. Put the spring in. Like I said, be very careful with that spring. This part's kind of tricky. Oops. I have big hands. This is not very fun. There we go. And check movement of the needle. That's all good. Now we're going to put the gasket back on. Like that. Oh, that would help. Gasket on upside down. Rookie move. Screws back in. Okay, carb's back together. I like to check these jets too, your low and your high speed. I've never had problems with dirt in them, but carbs apart, might as well check them. Quick spray, quick shot of air. Check the ends of these, make sure they're clean, which these are. Every still carb I've come across, the high speed jet is always a little bit bigger than the low, so you can't screw that up when you put it back together. Oh, this is annoying. Now I'm going to set these all the way tight, which would be leanest. And then each jet I'm going to spin out one full turn as your baseline. Half, one, half, one. And because I was trying to play with this before and the carb was acting all weird, I'm going to back the idle back down because it would only idle at very, very high throttle, or very, very high mixture. Sorry, very, very high idle adjustment. So it should be ready to go back in now. I'm going to reinstall it.